Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's live Prepper Talk radio podcast. We are, as usual, Scott, Shane, and Paris here to talk all things preparedness. We like to think of it less as prepping, more as being ready-minded. More as it's a wide range of everything that it is. It's not just bunkers and bullets, right? And a lot of TV shows make it out to be just that, and that's just like the ultra mega rich. They're building their bunkers, which is where they're going to die, where they're going to bury themselves in, and it doesn't make sense to me. What we want to focus on is all the practical things that make life better by being a prepper or being ready-minded. So thanks for tuning in and not tuning out, and thanks for being part of the family. We're excited. This episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Jase Medical. That's JASE medical.com. We're going to get you $10 off anything you purchase there using the code PrepperTalk. That's PREPPERTALK. Guys, I'm excited for this episode because this is all, I've actually been having conversations on this lately. This is all about having those weird conversations with people to get them into prepping, how to convince them. And it's easier in some ways than you think, but with other people, it's going to be harder. Right? And Shane's laughing because he's got more experience with the harder side of things.
No, I was going to say it's a way to alienate yourself from your family and friends. That's what this show is about.
Yeah, how to join the NFL, the no friends left.
There, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, and before we get started, I always forget. I want to invite you guys over to Facebook to the Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance page. Join over there. I'll accept you, and plug you into the group, and we'll have some good chats. So it's kind of like an extended version of this live over there when we get to chatting about some fun topics. So join us over there.
Absolutely. We've got a fun poll going on in there right now on what essential prepper tools you think everyone needs to have. So jump in there. Let us know what you think. We just did an episode on that, and you can go listen to that when you're done with this. It'll be posted on Tuesday.
I just clicked.
What's that?
I just clicked them all.
There you go. You can add items to it as well. So
okay, I'll add some items to it.
I know you're going to put flashlight and little sticks. I don't know what else you'll put in there, but yeah. Well, okay. So talking to friends and family, I actually have one of my business coaches that I've been talking to for years. She's helped me make quite a bit of money in social media marketing and stuff like that, which is fantastic. She's like, guys, I'm looking for a new hobby. What do you recommend? And I was just like, prepping. And so she responds to that, and she's like, what? Please explain more. This is fascinating. Like, and she knows, I've talked to her about prepping before, so she knows. But I'm like, it's gotten a whole bunch of people talking about it, and it's hilarious because they're like, oh, that sounds like it's only for crazy people. I'm like, crazy if you want to live. If having food on your table is crazy, and they're like, well, what do you mean? I thought it was just bunkers. I'm like, no. That's like less than 1% of preppers even have a desire to have a bunker.
Yeah, not me.
Like, I think majority of us are like, I just want to be off grid, or I just want to be away from my neighbors, or I just want to be in a community ideally suited with like-minded people who together can survive anything. And I'm like, bingo, sign me up. But I was like, okay, here's some things that fall into the world of prepping. And you can add to this list. Number 1, gardening. Number 2, homesteading, which is bigger, right? You can also say hobby farming, but self-reliance or self-sustainable living, off-grid living, getting solar systems for energy collection and harvesting, battery bank backups. I also am like first aid, self-defense, target shooting, fishing, camping, hiking. I'm like, all these things. I'm like, that all falls into prepping.
Yeah, and I think
like, oh, this is fascinating.
Yeah, I think some people, and I think it's a good point, Scott, is some people are probably already somewhat preppers, yet they don't necessarily classify themselves or even aware of what a prepper or what prepping is. I mean, it does have
it's got this weird name. You know, it's been kind of like tinfoil hatted for categorized that way for so long that it's like, yeah, we. Anyways, I think it's important to help redefine it. That's one way to help people kind of become preppers, is to help them realize what are they already doing. Like, for example, I think it's a perfect, if you know a young couple that's pregnant, and you can say, look, when that baby needs something and you reach in your bag and grab it, you're a prepper. We went to go do something for our church the other day, and it was going to be, you know, when you have, sometimes people react when they have a strong spiritual or emotional experience, they react with tears, and, you know, emotionally that way. And it was funny because we went and the guy handed tissues out before it even started. And I was like, you're a prepper, you know, that I told him that even, I said, sounds like you're a prepper too, you know, because we talked a little bit about it before the event. And so there's so many ways that just be ready for what life is about to happen, to throw at you. I mean, even in the financial world, we talk about an emergency fund. That's a prepper, you know?
Yeah.
So that's, you know, that there's so many things that people are already doing and aware of that you just help them associate it.
So here's a way to say it also. Merriam-Webster says a person who prepares something or prepares for something. Okay, I'm preparing for retirement. Oh, prepper. Oh, I'm preparing my meals for the week. Prepper. Right? It's such a generic term, and people think it's such a weird fringe thing. In reality, it's a catch-all for anyone who's thinking ahead.
I'm gonna have to check if that word was around in 1828.
Do it.
Oh,
in your
bringing out
dictionary.
the big guns.
But yeah, I was also going to say, you know, a bit of my stumbling block is I feel that most people that I care about should be as intense as I am, right? And that's not realistic at all. And so I think if I step back a little bit and maybe stop pushing people away from me and saying, you got to do this, you got to do that, you know, you got to be intense, the end is coming, right? And that's where we get kind of the extreme categorization of what preppers supposedly are. And I think, you know, maybe that's to our detriment a little bit. And honestly, I try my best not to do that. Sometimes I get maybe overzealous a little bit, right? But because we see what's coming, we see what the possibilities are, and we want, you know, when you've been warn your neighbor, right? Sound the alarm. The British are coming. The British are coming, right? I mean, it's we got to be intense. At least some of us need to, right?
Okay.
But I think most of the time that can probably be to our detriment when trying to convince family and friends.
Okay, let me throw it at you a different way. Okay, I'm going to give you a person as an example and their lifestyle that they chose. There's this guy that came from Austria, and he basically made his way to America by lifting weights and getting really bulky and oiling his skin and tanning. His name is Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's like, get to the chopper.
Wait, didn't he come from Australia?
Austria, he said.
Austria, different country entirely. But does everybody want to get as huge and bulky as he got in his prime? Does everyone want to be that insanely big? And is everyone willing to put in the work to be that insanely big, right? The point is like he got tons of traction for people to get into that industry.
That's true.
Because he was magnetic about it. People wanted to be around him because he was so hopeful and energetic and driven and motivated about it. I think that's part of why so many people come to our podcast, is because we show so many different aspects of it. And it's like, yeah, you can really turn people off by being like, it's the end of the world, and focusing on the doomsday side of things. You can also get a lot more traffic that way for some reason.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
When you're hopeful, you're building a great community. And that's the sad thing is some people just won't get it no matter what. But for example, like friends and family who are like, well, you're insane. Why are you prepping? Well, because I know things. And because I'd rather not go hungry if I lose my job. I'd rather not go hungry if there's a loss of a loved one or someone becomes permanently disabled. I'd rather not lose my shelter and my home and disrupt my family. For the same reason you put together your 401k, your IRA, your different investment strategies in preparation for retirement. I do the same thing for life. Like there's no better insurance for life than prepping. because it hedges against inflation, it hedges against disability, it hedges against joblessness. It's fantastic from that perspective and that point of view. It also hedges against disasters. Not so much against weird, crazy killer bees and aliens, but at least it's a start.
Hey, but those could happen too. I mean, right?
Those could happen.
Well,
I'm not going to put it out of the possibility or realm of possibilities.
I think another thing too is a lot of people, when they see preppers or food storage, they think, "Well, a year's supply, man, that's $6,000 or $7,000. I'm never going to be able. I can't afford that." And they don't realize that you can actually do that in pieces. You know, you can take stepping stones towards that. You don't have to get a year's supply all at once for $6,000 and just pop it down there. Like go get a week supply and then get a month supply and then get your 3-month supply and then start adding slowly but surely. Like go get, a case of 6, 10 cans of wheat or something. I think people get overwhelmed very easily. And this is true in anything in life, really. But I think it's also very true in preparedness. Like, oh no, I need a generator and that's 5,000. I need food storage and that's 6,000. By the time they start calculating, they're like, that's 20, 30,000, 40, dude. Yeah. But a house is hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you pay for it over 30 years. Like prepping is that same kind of thing. Like just take time. And as I explain to people, look, here's how you start. And then here's step 1, step 2, step 3. Oh, it's that easy? Yeah, it's that easy. Just, go get an extra can of tuna at the grocery store every week or an extra can of beans or something and just throw it in your pantry. Oh, I didn't realize it could be that simple. Yep. That's so make it, in sales, we call it reduce it to the ridiculous. And that's something that you can do as well when helping your friends understand, like, hey, preparedness isn't, it does. Yeah. Granted, you could go get a tricked out zombie killer truck, but that, you can be just fine with, the standards, kind of boring, simple, just add to your food storage every week.
Yeah. Well, and I think go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we are the gateway drug to prepping. Like we want to show you, the listener, and the community, like prepping is fun and prepping is cool. Like, Paris, you go to self-defense classes almost weekly and your daughter comes with you, right?
She wanted to, but she didn't end up coming.
Oh, that's slacker. But she wants to. I just got off a conversation last night with another friend who they lived locally and they were going to some of the same classes I was going to. And now they live in another state and they're like, hey, what do you know? What can I look for over here? What can I find? And I'm like, okay, here are the top 3 things to look for in a self-defense course. And she's like, well, yeah, I already know that. And I'm like, okay, then what are you asking me for? And she's just like, well, what would you recommend? I could go to this type, or this type. And I'm like, hands down, the third. And the third one she listed off was Krav Maga. That is one of my favorite practices for self-defense. It's an Israeli martial art. Special forces used it. It's fantastic. And it gets you in better shape. And you get to meet other people that are like-minded. It's fantastic, right? But it builds community, and it's one area of preparedness that I think everyone needs to get more proficient in. But it's a great way to connect to other people to get them interested in it.
Yeah, I think one of the stumbling blocks that I have seen, maybe relating mainly to family, is if they admit that they need to have more food or need to be more prepared, kind of admits that the future may not be as rosy and bright as you want it to be, right? That you're hoping it will be. Because my entire family, I mean, every single one of them are optimists. Both my brothers and sisters, as well as my extended family, my brothers and sisters-in-law, they're all just fun people to be around and just always in a good mood and just, always positive. And so I think some people may think, well, if I admit to myself that everything's not rosy, then maybe my life isn't as good as it actually is. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking out loud here, right? But I think that's got to be a factor. It's like, oh, Shane, you're just too negative, or which I'm not. I'm an apocalyptimist, right? I believe I'm absolutely optimistic about the future and that it's going to hell. But I'm ready for it, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm optimistic.
We need to design a T-shirt, Apocalyptimist. That is,
yeah, dude. Are you Apocalyptimist? A
Are you
what?
like me?
Is that like a hip
It's
Anonymous?
a group what we need to start, right? With the like an AA group or something, apocalyptists. But
But I agree with you, 100%.
yeah, people don't want to admit that bad things can happen, which I totally understand that.
Well, I call that group the head stuck in the Sanders, right? They're all
Yeah,
like, no, it's fine, everything's fine. It's like but it's
Yeah.
not, and you can fix things. It's like, oh, my door broke. I'm gonna leave my door broken on the front of my house and never get back in the front door again. Does that make sense? And that's how they're acting. And it's like, if you can show them that in other avenues, that's where the conversation comes in. Because it's like, I could try to have conversation about the apocalypse all day long. And with certain members of the family, it will never work.
Right. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
As soon as there's a disaster, they're like, their eyes will open up and their ears will perk up. It's like, I've got family in California. They've been dealing with like torrential rain, and there's flooding down in San Diego. Like, there's all kinds of different things going on. It's like, they're like, oh, I get it now. So I need to have food storage on hand in case I can't get to the store. Yes.
I was talking to a guy the other day, and I told him, I said, yeah, I'm a financial coach. I help people with their, finances. He's like, so what do you think about CBDCs or not CBDCs? What do you think about crypto is what he asked. I said, well, I mean, I'm kind of a prepper. So from my standpoint is that these are so reliant on our technology. They're reliant on electricity that, frankly, for me, if there's an EMP or solar mass ejection, or there's like the power goes out, like
the internet
you can't get to it. Like, so I would rather have something that was more functioning and usable. And so he's like, well, tell me more about that. So I showed him, actually had some Goldbacks in my wallet. So I showed him some Goldbacks, and he's like, those are awesome. I want to have one of those and some of those. And I was like, well, I'm a prepper. And he said, what else do you, so it was like this whole great conversation that started from kind of my idea about why I didn't, want to go a certain way with my investments. So there's some things like that. If you're a prepper and kind of have a good idea, about what's going on. And I'm actually surprised when I talk to some people about the news. Sometimes I'll talk to them like, hey, did you hear what happened? And they're like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you don't know what's going on in Texas? You don't know what's going on in California and New York, and you don't know, you're like, no, what's happening? And you start telling them a few things, and then I just slip in that prepper, hey, by the way, if something happened where these guys, did something locally with some kind of an active shooter, or maybe they did something else, are you ready for that? And that's like, wow, maybe I'm not. And that brings a lot of people into the reality. Like, I think that's a huge reality check. And that helps.
Yeah, I find that's is an easy way to lead into prepping. Say, as you're talking, if I'm talking with my siblings or family or friends, and say, hey, did you hear about this? Maybe text them an article or something, and then step back and let them kind of come to their own conclusions and hopefully ask questions, right? But without being pushy, without being any kind of pressure, because that hasn't worked for me in the past. Hey, let me help you. I want to sound this warning bell. I want to put up the red flag and help you. But it's like I say, I tend to be a little heavy at times, which you start to see the people glaze over, right? And then and then that's when the conversation ends, or you switch it to a different topic. But
I kind of feel like Joe Biden is a really great proponent for prepping. Like he's really helping us spread the word.
Well, what's funny is like everybody in mainstream media has a spin for the story, right? There's always a spin for the story. And it's like President Roomba, like everyone has a spin for his story. But the reality is like, let's go back in history. One of the greatest salesmen for guns was who?
Barama. Obama. I can't say it.
Barack Obama. Barack Obama.
Barama. Barama Obama.
Who is one of the second greatest proponent for guns? Anything to do with Hillary Clinton, like, or Clinton, whatever her name is. Like, the thing is, like, these super leftist ideal people, like their messaging is to the mass of stupidity. Like there's a study done in 2016 that talks about how IQ lends to woke ideology. The lower your IQ, the easier you are to manipulate into the woke ideology, which is the biggest problem we have right now as a society. And what's interesting is the higher your IQ, the more prepared you are in multiple facets of your life, meaning I've got retirement, I've got life insurance, I've got medical insurance, I've got food insurance, I've got long-term sustainability. When I say food insurance and life insurance, I'm not just talking about like going over and buying a life insurance policy. I'm talking about your 90-day, your 120-day, your 1-year pantry, your home store. And it's like anyone, especially anyone that has a kid, I like to point out, I'm like, do you have enough stuff for your kid? If you go to Disneyland, everyone with a kid is walking in with a stroller and a bucket or two of stuff underneath it that's usually food and drinks, and it's like those are the types of things. And especially a newborn mother who's got like the diaper bag from like Wonderland and like Mary Poppins bag, she's like pulling out lamps that are 10 feet tall and diapers for days and formula. Like that's prepping. And they don't realize they're preppers. They don't realize that part of life just making sense and doing those things is what we're all about. Like, boom, gateway. That's the opener. I've got family that's like, you're crazy. No, I'm cool with that because you know what? They don't have to come to my house when they run out of food to get fed. That's up to them. They don't have to. I'm not inviting them. I invited them to get prepared, but they don't have to come to my house. And to be honest, they won't make it to my house because they don't have the resources to get that far. That's the sad reality for most people. But it's like, if you can talk about things like, okay, there were the fires in Hawaii, or you can talk about the freezes in Texas, the power outages and all over the United States right now. Those are good conversation starters to get people to think about prepping. It's like, okay, what would you do if the power goes out in your house? Instead of the world is collapsing and all hell's breaking loose and end of days saga, like you could really go over the top with it and scare the crap out of everybody, and they'll never want to talk to you again.
Well, and unless they see it, they actually see it, and it's happening to them, they likely not to believe it, right?
And that's even true about like losing a job or like going into the everyday average stuff that happens. There's just telling people how real this can be on a day-to-day basis is critical.
Yeah.
Well, it's like all my friends down in Florida. When there's a hurricane, are they running on the stores to get all the stuff they need? No.
They go last minute.
No, they don't. It's the new people down there that do.
I see.
The ones that have lived there a while, they're like, oh yeah, we got stuff just in case. And we have boards to board up the windows. We've got all this other stuff. So we know the drill. When you've been through it, it's easier to be more resilient. When you haven't been through it, you're going to procrastinate it. And then you're going to be like, oh crap, I just spent triple what it should have cost me to get prepared for this weekend. And then like a dummy, they'll get rid of it afterwards. And then the next hurricane will come. And they're like, oh no, I got to do it again. Right. A couple of those painful, expensive lessons teaches you a lot.
Yeah. And of course, as I was thinking about this, of course, the thought that comes up is the quote that I think it was St. Francis de Assisi said, preach the gospel at all times. When necessary, use words. Right. So in other words, teach by example, lead by example. And so it's my hope that by doing this, by everything I'm doing and trying to get my family involved, at least on some level, right? Get them, I have tried to take all of my siblings shooting, right? Make sure they understand the basics and things like that, to where they know I'm concerned about them. They know I care, and I'm going to do what I can to try to teach them through my own example and through my own time and caring with them. And so that's what I've currently been trying to do. I don't know if it's working. Maybe it is. Hopefully I'll put this out to them and they can give me some feedback, right?
There you go. Ask them, have I freaked you out or have I inspired you?
I think another thing too is helping somebody become a prepper is often they just need to know what to do and how to do it the right way. It's overwhelming when you think about, oh, well, which
True.
should I get? Thrive? Or should I get for Patriot? Should I get Ready Hour? Should I get Mountain House? So like what? Like I went to the survival store and they had they had a whole wall of food storage of food meals prepared already. Like, do I buy all those? What do I like? If you can take somebody and say, listen, I'm going to actually show you how to become a prepper. Like I will mentor you. I'll walk you through it. I just remember when I moved in, I had a 250 some odd gallon water tank in my garage. When I moved that thing in, my neighbor came over and he's like, what is that thing? And I was like, well, it's this. And he's like, that is so cool. I'd like to get one of those too. If I'd have said, I basically said, here's how you do it. Go, see ya. If I had said, look, let's plan this out. Let me sit down with you. Let me come in the house and I'll share with you how much water you need. And I'll, he's got a young family, he's 2 little kids. And so he doesn't probably, 250 gallons would probably last him a month or more. But I'm just saying, like, if we took the time to actually sit down with people and say, listen, let me help you, hold your hand, at least in those initial stages, to give them that confidence to say, okay, I got a good start. I can take it from here. Like if you give somebody good, strong foundation and they can take it from there, I bet you're going to get a lot more of your friends to think that you're more helpful and a mentor rather than some wackadoo with a tinfoil hat.
Yeah, some pushy guy. Yeah, I think that's a great point, Paris, and for me, it's not overwhelming, probably because I've been working at it for so long and taking it little by little, but I can see how if some would think that, oh, this, I don't even know where to start. This just seems all too much to me. I'm not even going to try.
Yep.
But here's another thing I was thinking of that I did a number of years ago. I gave my nieces and nephews a silver quarter, 1962, 63, pre-64 silver quarter, 90% silver, and give them a little bit of lesson about silver and why this is no longer in our currency, in our money. And I had one of my nephews comment to me the other day, says, hey, when they gave us that quarter years ago, I still have that on my dresser. And I still remember that. Like, that's awesome. That planted awesome. A little seed that will hopefully go somewhere someday.
And I actually, I tip my barber in Goldbacks. So I pay for my thing with regular cash, but I give him his tip as a Goldback. And last time I had a haircut with him, he's like, I was looking through my stash and I got like 12 or 13 of these. These are so cool. I'm like, you can go down and trade them. And so he's like, tell me more about, like, he wants to talk about, every time I go and get my haircut, we talk about gold and other prepping things. And slowly but surely, he's warming up and becoming more and more warm to the idea of preparedness. And I think that's cool. Sometimes we want them to be converted now. We want them to come over and get their food storage now, like tomorrow, this weekend, let's do it. But we got to remember, like, reality is, it probably took you, if you're listening to this, think about when you first started getting prepping. Did you become an avid prepper the first time you heard about it, or did it take some exposure before you actually realized, you know what? And you think about it, it could have probably taken you maybe even a year or more too, or longer to really realize, hey, this, the lifestyle and the importance of it. So give some people some grace and a little bit of time and just kind of drip on them. I think that drip method might, what's a Chinese drip method? It might work for prepping too.
Well, I think it more than anything, it comes down to listening, right?
Good point.
What are the things that they're saying that are, I guess you could say, trigger ideas for prepping?
Hot points.
Hot points. Yeah, that's a better word. Trigger warning. Hot points is what we're looking at, not triggers. But like, what are the hot points that they're concerned with? And then understanding where their concerns are is when you can lead them down a path of prepping. Because like we said before, prepping is not just doomsday. It's every day. And it could be, hey, we're going to go do archery classes this week. You want to come? Hey, I'm going hunting. You ever been hunting? You want to come with me? Hey, we're going fishing. That's such an easy one. You teach a man to fish. And what's the analogy? What's it say? What do they say?
Give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish.
Feed him for a
lifetime. Yeah.
That's the whole point in prepping, is giving them tools to be resilient for a lifetime. Like I remember we bought a family member a year's supply of food when I sold my last home. And that's a lot of money. And they haven't used any of it. which is fine because it's got a 25-year shelf life. But the thing about it is like they kind of are into preparedness, but not very much. Right. But I gave them this huge gift that helped them get further along. And I've asked since then, I'm like, what else have you guys done to be better prepared? And what's funny is you'd think that my brother would be the one that pushes it more because he was raised this way, but it's his wife that buying her that year supply of food planted a seed. And now she's like, oh yeah, we got a backup cooking system. It's Ryan's camping stuff. And I know where it is. And I made him teach me how to use it. And I'm like, yes, I'm like,
Good for you.
that's what it is. Right. And it's having, and it especially helped when they started having kids. And I'm telling you guys, if you've got friends and family that have kids, especially when it's brand new kids, that's the time to start talking to them about preparedness, emergency preparedness. Okay, what happens if your child gets sick? What do you do? Oh, rush them to the hospital. Well, no, not necessarily, right? But like talk to them about different options, especially if you've been there before. You've got a position of authority in a position of experience that you can help them. But you got to listen to what they're saying to be able to make those conversations matter.
Yeah. Another thing too, you just brought up something, Scott, it kind of triggered in my mind something that over the last 3, maybe 4 years, we've kind of gotten, a lot of people have kind of woken up to the idea of traditional medicine and that, maybe we're not really getting told the truth about what's going on and with the pharmaceutical industry. And there's just a lot of stuff coming out. And I think that that's a great way to say, hey, look, there's some alternative ways to do things. There's some great herbs that you can get into, some great oils that you can get into. I mean, there's a lot, there's some momentum right now. I think of all the, other than right before Noah entered the ark, right now is a lot of good momentum in the air about helping people understand the importance of getting prepared and being prepared in many facets of their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking also, another thing I'm probably a little going too heavy of this, and I think that's good because it's expected of me now. We go to family functions. I don't break into the conversation and start talking about prepping, but they know I'm there. They know I'm off in the corner, just standing waiting. They know I'm not going to talk about football or sports, right? They know what I'm about. And so, what I try and do is add it for a birthday gift or something we give for Christmas. Last Christmas I gave everybody some nice flashlights, right? And they were well received. At least I think they were, right? And so I'm helping them to become a little more prepared with something that's also practical they can use every single day. And that's for me, that's the best kind of gift. Something that doesn't just sit on the shelf that gets used, right? So.
That's awesome.
Well, it goes back to that. I can't remember who it was, the philosopher, but basically the student came to him and was like, hey, I want you to teach me everything. And he was standing next to a fountain and he goes, okay. And he grabs the kid and he shoves him in under the water. You guys remember the story? Was that Socrates? Okay. I couldn't remember. But he like held him under there for a while and he probably pulled him out. The kid's like gasping. And he's like, when you want to learn, as much as you want it to breathe, come back to me. And the same goes for anything. Like we're here to help teach, but as soon as you want to really learn and do something, like the teacher will show up. Someone will show up that can help you. Guidance pops up. Like my wife wasn't into prepping when we first got married. And now she's the most organized, prepared person in my life. She's always the most organized, but now she's more prepared than I am in organized methods and tools and resources. Because of her, we have a really good grasp on what we have and what to use and when to use it and when to resupply it.
Your inventory.
Like an actual store. And it's phenomenal. And if you guys want to get that tool that we created, go to preppertalkradio.com, go to the resources page, and we will give you access to the Google Sheet that helps you get. It's got a food storage calculator. It's got an inventory tracker. Like it is the game changer for us that really got her like sucked in. She's like, okay, now I'm all about this. But it took a little while getting her to the point where she wanted to do that type of thing. And then when she made that tool, it made my life so much easier. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to share it with everybody. So guys, make sure you go over to preppertalkradio.com, get access to that. Just save it as your own, make a copy, fill it out with your own stuff. It'll tell you how much water you need, how much food you need. It's fantastic. It's a free tool, but it's another good tool or resource to help people get focused on it.
Yeah, your question here you posed to the group, what's your best intro line to help others get interested, I guess. I think it would make sense to write that down and have a bunch of questions, kind of like pickup lines, right? I was never good at that. I was never very good at that. But I kind of like what I was thinking before, is maybe the way I dress. Actually, I've got an uncle that whenever we go to a function, he comes, gives me a hug, and he always reaches around. Oh, you still carrying? He knows that it's there. He knows I've got my weapon on me all the time, and he just, and so we always strike up a conversation about that. So there's I think always something that you can do. You can say some little thing to pique someone's interest, and that's kind of what I try and do a lot. Is and it kind of test the waters, dip your toe in, see what their response is, and then go a little bit deeper. But I think that definitely takes some practice.
So, like, if I were to walk up to a stranger and I would say, "Is that a Constitution in your pocket, or are you just happy to free me?" Is that a good?
There you go.
Pickup
No,
line?
that's people go, "What the heck are you talking about?" Are you
not see me, free me.
No, I like that. I
Paris
like
is over
that.
there just crazy.
Like, what are you talking about? Okay, I'm gonna post the link here in the chat. There we go.
Oh, I already did.
Oh, you did. Okay, you did. All right, we did the same time. We're thinking the same thing. All right, cool.
Yeah, thanks Backcountry for reminding us. Sandy also posed a question. She's wondering if there's going to be food shortages with the trucker convoy going on. Absolutely. It's more slowdowns, right, than anything else. We are expected to see some more shortages this year. There's already a rice shortage going on worldwide. It doesn't affect us as much because we just don't use that much rice in America. But there are some shortages coming, and expect to see that as kind of the new normal. Is things will be more in short supply, different types of resources. Good wheat is always in short supply. Most of the wheat you're going to buy, unless it's from a trusted, reliable source, is going to be oversprayed and not the most healthy option. But you can get red wheat from Montana. That's one of the best wheats out there. But finding reliable resources you can use. I think more than anything, go stock up on canned foods. If you don't know how to process whole wheat, the whole kernel wheat, like, you don't just go buy that first. Buy beans and rice, and dry beans and dry rice. Buy oats. Those are all things that are pretty easy to make.
Have a stash of flour already down to the usable before you get to the grains of wheat and grinding it.
And right now you can store wheat for a couple of years. You just have to keep it away from the bugs and the mice. And you don't have to do anything special to it. Just put it in a hard container, throw it in Mylar bags. If you really want it to last longer, I've seen people say you can get up to 10 years. I've only tried 5, and I make sure I rotate it before then. But you can put it in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers and then throw those bags into food grade plastic tubs.
Yeah, I had a neighbor that had some wheat that was 30 plus years old. It was just in plastic buckets, not in Mylar bags, no oxygen absorbers. Mm-hmm. And she asked me, "What do you think? Should we get rid of this?" I said, "Well, worst case, you could use it as fodder. You could feed animals with it. You could maybe sprout it." But she actually ground it up, baked bread with it, and brought me a loaf of bread. And
that's cool.
And I'm sure it was probably stored in ideal temperature and location and so forth. So, before you just throw things out, check them, and maybe give it a try.
Speaking of that, Scott, a couple episodes ago, you mentioned going on Facebook Marketplace to buy things that people are not, they got all excited about Y2K or whatever, and now they're selling their food stores. My brother, who listens to our show, he's like, "Let me check that out." He literally went on to Facebook Marketplace, and a guy was selling a year's supply of Mountain House for $2,300.
Wow.
That's like
Snag that up.
$10,000.
Yeah, he was like, well, I don't know if it was all Mountain House, but a lot of Mountain House was there, and there were some Augustin Farms in the pictures. But I was like, dude, he's like, am I crazy if I don't
Okay.
go buy this? I'm like, yeah, dude,
So
if you have the cash, go get that thing.
It's between $4,000 to $10,000 depending on what the mix
For a
was.
mountain. Yeah, mountain.
Yeah, easy.
The Mountain
And so-
House is going to be if it's mostly Mountain House, you're up around 10 grand.
yeah, and so
Unless
it
you
was
got it on sale for
2,300, and I was like,
for
dude, go buy
9.
that thing.
Oh, that's a deal. He scored. Now, not everybody's going to have that kind of money lying around at any time, but this is the time to do it because it's tax season. You can get that stupid loan you gave the government with 0 interest, get that
Mhm.
money back. Don't go
Mhm.
buy your Disney trip or your cruise ship or whatever garbage thing you're thinking, oh, we're going to buy a boat. No, don't go buy a boat. Hop on Facebook Marketplace, find someone that's selling all the stuff you're looking for, or just go to the store that you need to get it at and get your food storage, get your water storage, get yourself situated. That's all I can say.
Yeah, like
If
Mike
you
was
can-
saying here, get your canned food first, fill up your pantry first. That's always our advice. And
Mhm.
like Sandy said here, he's wondering if there's going to be shortages. If you're concerned and you have the means, get what you need so you don't have to worry about it. I honestly, I'm to the point where I see something like this, potential shortages. I'll just double check. Do I have what I need? Do I need to top anything off? And I'm not too concerned.
Yeah, I
What's
think it's so
funny-
important when you're talking with people about how to get prepared to be ready is just keep it super simple and
Mhm.
keep it very systematic. Like, hey, it's easy. Just do this and then that and then that, and then come back to me when you've done that. Like, just the easier. And I also don't. I mean, I wear cargo pants. Other than that, I don't really look like a prepper. So people are kind of surprised when I tell them I'm kind of a prepper. They're like, "You are?" Like, because I'm just.
Well,
And so that's the reality of it. Just be a regular person. That's what prepping is
let's
about.
be
Just-
honest. You look like a happy version of John Wick. Like that's
well,
you walk
yeah,
around, maybe without the suit, but you look like a happy, joyful version of John Wick. The hair, the beard, like it's just dialed in. I, on the other hand, look like a bearded marshmallow man, like State Pop. And I'm wearing my little vest right now to keep myself warm because I'm in the basement. But it's like I don't really look much like a prepper most of the time either. And that's the thing is like there's no like everyone thinks a prepper is some guy wearing a tactical vest and armor plated gear and like no, the more covert you are, the more like a normal person you look. That's really the wheelhouse of most preppers anyways. We just want to be more resilient.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be all about flash grenades and ARs. I mean, those are fun. Let's be honest.
It
That's a
kind
lot
of
of fun.
does. It kind of does, Scott.
It doesn't have to be, but like you've got a percentage that's that and a percentage that's your food storage, and find people where they are, find where they're interested, listen to what they're saying, and then make it make sense for them.
Yeah.
I guess kind of my final thoughts, what I was thinking, what I wrote down here is, and I've had this mentality for a long time, is it's time to get serious. It really is. That's, I'm going to try and shout that from the rooftops and tell my family is all about it as much as I can, because I'm concerned about them. I'm concerned that they'll come to me when it hits the fan. So Shane, can you help us out? And I don't, we had this conversation last week, honestly, I still don't know how I'm going to react, but I want them to be prepared so they don't have to, have to come and to me or suffer or be in need of anything when they've had plenty of opportunity to do so. So I think to me, this is a very serious topic. That's why I wanted to talk about it, get everybody's input on it. And, that's just what I'll say. It's time, or maybe even past time, to get serious. Get serious with this. Get what you need and do it quick.
And stop buying people useless crap for their birthdays and for holidays.
Amen.
Yeah.
Buy them prep
Amen.
stuff. That's
Exactly.
so easy. It's like if they show a little bit of interest in one of those areas, buy them something in that area.
Mhm.
Like, all right, I got $20 to spend on
Feed the
on
fire.
that, or I got $7. I'm gonna get your fire starter and a more knife. Boom.
Yeah.
Let me
I'm
like
gonna show you how to do it. We're gonna practice.
A lot of these freeze-dried food places are going to be mad about this, but if people are like, man, I want to buy a freeze dryer. Well, okay. Do you have your 90-day pantry first? Do you have your bug out bag? Do you have don't get me wrong, buy a freeze dryer, but not until you have the rest of the stuff. And that help people understand we're going to really, if you want to have, we did an episode about how dangerous your neighbors are going to be. It's going to be those of you on the live, it hasn't dropped yet, but for those of you who are listening on the thing, you've already heard it probably. So if you don't want to have dangerous neighbors, get them into prepping now, and then get them into part of your community, and then build that. And you'll have neighbors that are going to edify and add to your situation if SHTF, rather than neighbors that you're going to have to like defend yourself against. So
and what better prepping group could you have than your own family?
Yeah,
I mean, realistically,
and your neighborhood. Like,
so I
seriously.
think, yeah, exactly. So I think that's why it's so serious for me. Is, you know, I need that support too in my life when it comes to it. When it hits the fan, I'm going to need that as well, and I admit that. So please get ready, family.
Yeah.
If you watch this, come talk to me.
Right?
Do it now, or else.
Do it now.
If they ever watch,
We're all going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the old doomsday preacher, you know, repent or you're going to hell.
Yep.
The end is near.
There's always some room for that. There's always some room.
If I try that, I'm just going to sound like Foghorn Leghorn. Well, I'll say, like, I'm Looney Tunes, guys. I apologize, but there's ways to do it. There's people start problem solving. Like, if you can't help them and convince them that they need to do this for themselves, you're creating a problem for yourself further down the road.
Seriously,
when things do go sideways. And it's like, we do this podcast for that very reason, so we can help people get better prepared and not be reliant on somebody else to get them out of the ditch when they find themselves falling into it because they weren't paying attention. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just shared something to the chat here. You guys have to watch this.
A video?
Eventually. Just a video.
Guys, make sure you guys are following us on all the podcast platforms, but make sure you go over to our Facebook page and watch these, because we do show products. Like our last episode, we showed a lot of different products while we were talking, but then we also have links to additional resources that we'll post up in the comments. So make sure you check those out. Fantastic resources. But the other fun thing, here's one of the easiest ways. This is what got my wife. Books.
Mm-hmm.
Like nonfiction, informational, great. But fiction books, they're great to get people to start prepping, because they're like, give them a book. Like, for example, the Going Home series by Angry American, give them book number 1. And if they don't go, oh crap, or get them that Ted Koppel Lights Out book, and they don't go, if they read it and they're like, oh crap, they'll call you and be like, hey,
or 1
I
minute
got my
after.
paper and pencil. What do we got to do? How do I get prepared? It's fantastic. That's what I use on my wife as a book. And she was just like, oh, we need to really get prepared now. And if they're religious and you start talking about signs of the times, that's another easy way.
Oh yeah, dude. One of the things that convinced me to push me over the edge was I was reading the Bible about the prophecies about the famines and the pestilences and the diseases. And I was like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be up in that.
I would like to be on the right side of that instead of the wrong side.
Exactly.
So true.
Well, one of the things too, honestly, if you got the sign of the beast, right, and you think about it, like one of the things it says is that you'll not be able to buy or sell goods without getting the sign, the mark.
Ask yourself a question: do you believe it? Do you believe the Bible?
Yeah. If that's true, then you want to have food storage so you can eat when your buddies are down at the market with the mark on their forehead or whatever hand. You're already, off in the wilderness eating food that you already had stored and ready to go. So.
But that's not for 100 years, Paris. You're crazy.
Oh yeah, right.
That's not
maybe
100
dog years, 100 goldfish years,
100 goldfish years,
dude.
Oh man, this is
getting
good.
Close, people. It's,
that's a whole nother conversation we could talk about.
It's probably closer than 100 goldfish years. I don't even know what a real goldfish year is. If you know, please put it in the comments so we can find out and research that ourselves. But yeah, it's like. Everything that's going on in the world, if you're not thinking, I got to be better prepared, what do you have a brain? Are you thinking still? Like logical fallacies, like just the logic and reasoning part of our brain, part of our life alone should be telling you it's time to get better prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, are you still breathing? Like, or like we need to do some more assessments and figure out what's going on with you. Like, are you brain dead? You're probably not listening to this podcast, but like, let's be honest. Like, if you have any logic and reasoning in you and you're remotely Christian, thinking about the signs of the times and what's going on, you're awake to it. You should be awake to it. If you're remotely focusing on the world news, you should see things are getting sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
Supply chains are getting wonky. I better be better prepared. Oh, the dollar could collapse any day now. I better be prepared for that.
Yep.
That's it. That's where you start. Well, guys, thanks so much for being part of our show today. Any final thoughts or comments, you guys, before we bounce out of here and let everyone go back to their normal, regularly scheduled disinformation lifestyle?
I'm good.
Nope. Keep spreading the word, guys.
Yes, please.
Guys, thanks for being part of the show today. Thanks for those of you who are on the live and for all the amazing comments we've gotten. Don't forget to join us on our Facebook group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance. We have got people jumping in there every week, checking out the resources we have, having fantastic conversations, bringing up things that we haven't thought about in a long time. I don't know if anything in there has been completely new and shocked to me, but there's been some stuff that I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. I forgot about that. It's fantastic. There's a lot of great resources in there. Make sure you join that group. Also, make sure you guys go check out our website, preppertalkradio.com. We've got links to all the books we love. We've got product guides and informational things that you can get for free, some good resources, understanding what you can do for your 96-hour kits. We made those lists ourselves based on our own experiences of combined more than 50 years in prep. Like, that's the fun part about what we're doing. We just want to be a resource. So hop in there, ask us questions, let us know what you're thinking, what you need, what you want us to cover in future topics. And most of all, thank you for being ready-minded, keeping your head on a swivel, and trying to be prepared for everything that's coming. And you know what? My final word is this: come what may, and love it. Try to be positive. Try to be excited about the future, because there's still a lot of good things coming. There's still a lot of wonderful things to experience. Life is worth living through whatever could come, because there's even better stuff on the other side of it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode.
See you next week.
Take care, guys.